G'day humans, Chris Stead here. This is me flying into the island of Maui in Hawaii. And that down there is Lahaina, which suffered a really significant tragedy recently where the big fires, I'm sure you heard them, the Hawaii fires of 2023. And I was flying into Maui to see what the place is like, not just Lahaina, but Maui as a place to visit. See how the region itself of Lahaina is recovering, but also to see what tourists could do if they turned up right now and what type of experience they'd be having. So it's 2 years after the event. Let's dive in and take a closer look at life on Maui at the moment. So one of the first things that became evident once I arrived on Maui, I had never been to Maui before, was the area of Lahaina which got damaged by the fires, which was so devastatingly damaged, is not a very big space. Like, you can drive through it, as we are now, in, 10 minutes, you're probably across the whole entire space, along the coastal area anyway. And outside of that, there's this humongous, massive island with so much more going on that was never even touched by the fires. And we were staying at Kanapali Shores, which is probably about 10 minutes further up from Lahaina, and you'd never know there'd ever been a fire in that particular region. And obviously people from all over the island were affected, and I did speak to a number of locals, and in particular those that have been trying to help with the rebuild or otherwise been affected through the tragedy, just to kind of, hear how they felt about it and where they're placed with it. And look, there's obviously a lot of politics involved in terms of getting the funding and everything. There's a lot of work still to be done, and definitely that Lahaina area is probably, in fact, I spoke to one guy who said, he thinks it'd be at least 10 years before it's kind of, that particular area is back to anything like it was. But we were there. We were driving down the front street there, which was a very popular destination, and restaurants were starting to open and places were starting to open again. There was a couple of hotels that were starting to open along the front there, but there was also a lot of construction being done, and there were signs up, please don't come and gawk at us, on our houses, and we respected that and didn't go up to those areas. But there was also a lot of people clearly still living in caravans. They built a lot of tiny homes in places to kind of get people through. There were lots of just vacant land which didn't look like anyone was doing any work on them whatsoever. It's, I'm from Australia, and as my fellow Australians can attest, like, we know fire, and we know how devastating it is for everybody involved, and you can see that. But it is bouncing back. And the good news, I guess, for those who are considering travelling to Maui, and it was interesting, there was some pushback. When I spoke to a lot of locals in the tourism industry, right? So I spoke to the guys from the Maui Marine Centre, I spoke to the guys from Leota's Bakery, I spoke to some chefs, like people who were more reliant, I guess you could say, on the tourist dollars for many people, than many people. And so there has been a little bit of pushback with a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but a minority of people don't want it to come back to that full tourism that it was. But the impression I got was that there's an overwhelming majority who are working towards that goal. And what I found is that there was just still so much to do. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. It's such a incredible landscape. It's stark, yet it's beautiful, and in a way that just the domes out of the water it blows your mind. And honestly, outside of that tiny, relatively tiny little stretch of the island where Lahaina is, the rest of it is just open for business and gung ho. There, we went up to some of the upcountry cowboy towns and explored there. We went to a vodka distillery. We went across to Paia, I think it's called, and found some turtles to swim with, and checked out all the shops and everything. Went on a cruise, a sunset cruise, out to just the waters kind of between the islands to just take in a spectacular view. Checked out the Marine Centre, as I said before, and as well as just eating in some fantastic restaurants, notably Haven's Harbourside, which was amazing, Merriman's, which was really, really good. So yeah, there's plenty to still see and do, and on top of that, I could tell quite quickly that I really had only just scratched the surface. There was so much more that we could have done. I would have loved to have spent more time up in the upcountry. I would have loved to have spent some more time going to the other side of the island. Apparently there's some even better snorkeling and some amazing kind of like caves and so forth that you can kayak through. And I would have loved to have done a lot of that if I'd had more time on the island. So as it currently stands, Lahaina is still very much in a state of construction. There is green shoots. There is stuff coming back to life. There is a lot of construction going on and people trying to reclaim their lives and their place. But outside that, there is still plenty for tourists to come. What I think is really important if you're going to go to Maui is to just respect that Lahaina area. People lost their lives. We met people who had lost family members, and all they asked for was respect in that area, not to come and gawk, not to come and try and take photos and everything like that. But assuming you can do that, I highly recommend going, because absolutely they could do with your support and help during what has been a very, very difficult time, and you can bring your money and income into the area, and there's just still so much to do, and it's an incredibly beautiful place. So I would recommend definitely putting Maui back on your map if you're wondering. I know when it all went down, there was kind of a like, please don't come. That is no longer the case. You are welcome, and you are wanted. So anyway, there's a bit of a wrap up on, I guess, where Lahaina is now after the fire. Still, I reckon even at least a decade from now of work to go for that kind of township and that region. But for the rest of the island, it's still so beautiful and still so worth going and seeing. Anyway, make sure you keep an eye on the channel, because I'm putting up heaps of content. I'm going to show off all that content I just spoke about in more detail, including, you can see a review of the Aston Kanapali Shores Hotel that I stayed in while I was there. So make sure you check all that out on the channel. And otherwise, I'm Chris Stead. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'll check you later. Yeah.